everyone. Welcome to our first ever live episode of the Jedi Way. I am one of your hosts, John Rocha, also known as Rocha Fett, joined by the lovely Laura Kelly over there in Chicago. Laura, how are you? How are things?
John, things are good. Things were a little weird today. I had let me think. I ordered a hot dog for dinner right before I left for an hour appointment where I had to put my mask on. So I had to breathe in my own hot dog breath for like an hour and a half. So it's not great. But mouthwash helps. So that's where we're at right now. How are you tonight? How's everything going?
I'm good. I'm excited to do the show. I'm just running on adrenaline all day today. I've had like 6 shows back to back today, and had a little bit of a break in the middle of the day and then back to it again. But, this is part of my life, and I'm excited about this, and I'm excited about doing our live show here on the Jedi Way. And I'm excited to hear from all you fans who are watching us live tonight. We are going to dive into this from a certain point of view. The Empire Strikes Back book that has been announced. Like I said, it was announced before, but some of the stories have been teased, or all the stories have been teased. All the authors have been teased, and little snippets have showed up on the Del Rey Star Wars Twitter account that you can go and take a look at. We'll be looking at some of it here on the show as well. And we're also going to talk about the High Republic crawl that was released a few days ago as well. Laura, what's your overall feeling right now about this book coming out and celebrating the 40th anniversary of The Empire Strikes Back? What's your feeling about all of this?
Well, I'm feeling really good about it. And you know what? I just realized that I kind of messed this up because I think last episode I wore my Empire Strikes Back shirt and we were talking about Mandalorian. Now you're wearing your Mandalorian shirt while we're talking about Empire. So this all balances out really, really well. But no, I'm really excited for this book. From a certain point of view, The Empire Strikes Back. If anybody out there read the first one that came out for A New Hope to celebrate the 40th anniversary of that movie, right? That book was, first of all, it was incredible. It was so good. I loved all the stories. I think one of the things that really stuck with me was the ending of the book. The last chapter just addresses the crawl. Mm-hmm. And so it kind of takes a step back out of the story and like looks at the movie, and it's like, oh my God, what is this? All these words coming on the screen. It's really, really funny the way that it's done, but I'm really excited because they're actually bringing back those characters and that sort of story element to the Empire Strikes Back version of this book. So we're going to get that same, I think, kind of silly ending that kind of takes you out of it, but in this really fun way. So I'm excited for tons of reasons, but I'm really happy that they're bringing that back too. Yeah,
absolutely. For those of you who don't know, this is a book that's like Laura just said, there was a book already that came out from a certain point of view, Star Wars, and all these incredibly fun stories and some dark stories and some interesting stories peppered throughout that kind of expanded the Star Wars universe. And these are all canon, Laura, from what I understand. This is not that kind of like out there legend stuff that they've said that they're bringing certain characters and storylines in when they want to do it. But right now, this stuff is all canon, isn't it? The stuff that's in these stories.
It is indeed. And I think there was a fun thing that sort of happens when I'm listening to these stories, because I often do the audiobooks. That's just my preference sometimes for taking these in. And it's fun because with these books, there's different narrators for every story. So they really mix it up and it's really fun. But I remember listening to it last year. I was kind of poking through it right before I was getting ready for the Schmodown. So I guess it was earlier this year. It seems like so long ago. Oh yeah. But there's a lot of fun trivia tidbits that you can pull from these stories. So if anyone out there is also into Star Wars trivia, these books, from a certain point of view, they're really, really great resources to kind of get into the nitty gritty sort of not really behind the scenes, but just sort of side characters. That's where a lot of these stories are coming from. Okay. And you're right. They're written by amazing authors. I remember from a certain point of view, the A New Hope version had a story by Ray Carson, who I wasn't familiar with as a writer. But her story was called The Red One, and it was really, really good. It was about the droid with the bad motivator on Tatooine. And it was this really, really beautiful, moving story. And I remember like reading it on public transportation. And I think I was like getting ready to cry on the train. And then I was really excited because then I found out later that she was going to write the novelization of The Rise of Skywalker. Right. Which was the book itself was actually incredible. It was really, really well done and really good as a book, as opposed to a film. But it was that's kind of where I ended with that. It was there's trivia tidbits. They mix it up with the different stories and the different writers and the different vibes. It's going to be a ton of fun. I'm glad that they're bringing back some of the writers that I'm familiar with and bringing in some new ones, it looks like, too.
Yeah, and some of you who are Star Wars fans who are joining us here and Jedi Way fans, thank you so much. And I'm sure you've dived into the stories or dived in, not actually the actual stories, but dived into some of the teases about these stories. And you've got some favorite ones that have jumped out at you. We're going to hear from Laura what her favorite ones are. I'm going to talk about some of my favorite ones are as well. But we're also going to take your questions. I want to encourage you, Streamlabs and Superchats, please send them in. Send in anything you want to ask Laura about Star Wars, anything you want to ask me about Star Wars, anything you want to ask both about Star Wars. Send them in. Send the questions in through Streamlabs and Superchat. You see it above Laura's head or above, right there in the middle there. Streamlabs.com/John Rocha says /tip. That's the way to do it. Also, you could go down into the description of this video and you can see the website address there as well. You can click on that, go in there, send in your Streamlabs. I have it up. Send in your Super Chats. I'll bring your question in live. We'll ask you live. And then later on in the show, maybe last 30 minutes, last 20 minutes of the show, we'll bring people in live to ask their question. Our $10 patrons, obviously, for the Outlaw Nation, get first dibs. And then anybody else who's out there who wants to come in and ask us questions can do so as well. We're going to get into all of that. So don't forget, Super Chat, Streamlabs, really important for you to support the show, support the Outlaw Nation, and everything we're doing here, and especially supporting the Jedi Way. So, so a little background here about this situation, about these books here. Laura, they're being, the quote is, it's the classic sequel, and that is the Empire Strikes Back, through the eyes of background characters, heroes, villains, droids, and creatures. So many of the illustrations for the book were created by Chris Trevis. And the authors are just a who's who of authors and some new authors as well, tackling the Star Wars franchise and then tackling these stories from these characters, from these people involved in The Empire Strikes Back and occurring on these planets. I think one of the ones that stood out for me, I'm going to look it up in just a second, was the chef who has to cook that massive meal that you see in The Empire Strikes Back when Han and Leia walk in and Darth Vader is standing there with Lando, or Lando walks them in and Darth Vader standing there with Boba Fett, that massive buffet that is laid out for them. And it's the chef's going, wait, you want me to cook for who? And Lando is telling him, yeah, Darth Vader's coming. He's like, well, what does he even eat? And so that's just a fun way of expanding the universe here. What is one that stood out for you that you saw teased from the Rey Books or on any of the websites that were covering this?
Well, I think one of the ones that stood out the most for me that it was the fact that we're going to get a story from L337's point of view.
Right.
Now that she's sort of built into the Falcon with two other droid brains, as we learned from the story cards that Telray posted. So I'm really excited to revisit that character. I just imagine like being able to like read it in my head as like in Phoebe Waller-Bridge's voice. You can kind of hear it like that. Yeah. I'm very excited for that. And for the return of that character. I think that's going to be really fun. One of the other ones I'm really pumped for is the story about Torrin Farr. Any Star Wars trivia buffs out there might know her as the one of 4 women that speaks in the original trilogy. She's number 4, and she has her one line, which I believe is something ion control fire. But so she's one of the technicians on Hoth. So we're going to get a little backstory on her and a little bit more about what she was all about, which I'm excited for, because again, one of 4 women that speaks. How about you? Were there any that stood out to you?
Yeah, I love this one from Amy Ratcliffe. She retweeted it as well. She said she could finally share the details about her story and from a certain point of view, Strikes Back. I'm writing an original character, Corwy Selgroth, who is a journalist turned rebellion propagandist. How interesting. She has a mission on Hoth, but things don't go as planned. The excerpt they put here in her tweet is Corwy Selgroth, I hope I'm saying that right, it's the first time I heard the name, imagined herself at home wrapped in her beloved bantha fur blanket and comfortably reviewing footage for new recruitment holos. Instead, she was still on Hoth. This was not how the trip was supposed to go. So this idea of being a journalist, then becoming a rebellion propaganda, seeing like, oh, what's going on here? All right, I'm going to switch jobs because there's a bigger job that I need to do. Certainly, Laura, what we've seen now in our world, this idea of fake news is that where do I get my sources? Where do I get my information from? Who do I explore that's giving me the information? And then these journalists, I remember last night in the vice presidential debate, the journalist for USA Today who moderated, Susan Page, she also kind of hosted a fundraiser for a Pence protege. So what's the line there? So this is a fascinating way in that feels topical, to what's happening now, but also timeless, because journalists have always kind of jumped from one place to the next, depending on how their point of views have changed, or what they want to do with their career, or how they want to use their talent to promote something a little more positive, or something about the greater good. So I thought that was pretty awesome to see as well. What about you?
Yeah, and I think that it's really interesting, because I think we have almost the exact opposite situation going on in terms from Star Wars, in terms of in real life, we have so many different media outlets to pick from, and you really have to people can very much cherry pick based on their beliefs and based on whatever political system they believe in, but it's kind of strange, because you do have to you have to stay vigilant, and you need to be sort of fact checking all of the things that you see. I feel like with Star Wars, there was like the HoloNet, and that was like the only source of information, at least while the Empire was in existence. So it's like there's so many more options there of where you could go if you wanted to bring a journalist into that world.
Right.
It'd be really fun. I envy Amy Ratcliffe for getting to sort of explore, like, what would that be like in universe.
Yeah.
So I bet that story's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. What stood out? What's another one that stood out for you?
There's always good stuff that comes from anything with Obi-Wan. I feel like whatever he had in the first, a certain point of view, and I don't remember all the details. I remember Qui-Gon had an appearance in that story, made a little cameo appearance, which was fun. But they have a way of like really using Obi-Wan in these really like emotionally effective ways, I think, in stories like this. So I'm really excited to see whatever comes of that. The story card that Del Rey posted about his story kind of talks about how, it's kind of funny, and it's sort of this dry humor of like, he's dead. He is a Force ghost. He's now one with the Force. And here he is still having to mess around with the Skywalkers and all of their drama, because if he doesn't step in, then it's going to have these like huge galactic consequences. So it's funny. He's got a good sense of humor about it, but I'm looking forward to that kind of stuff too.
Absolutely. There's one with IG-88 and Dengar. It's being promoted. The oddest of odd couples on the hunt for Han Solo. They just might catch him if they don't kill each other first. And they put the excerpt in as in, can you believe they pay us for this? It wasn't the excitement in Dengar's voice that surprised IG-88, who stood next to the Corellian bounty hunter as he piloted his way through wreckage and debris. As the galaxy's deadliest assassin droid, IG-88 had crossed paths with plenty of over-exuberant bounty hunters, the sort who convinced themselves that obsessive thrill-seeking was a vacation. Dengar yanking back the yoke of his Jump Master 5000, that's awesome, as it dodged incoming detritus, was just one more fool with a blaster. So that's just so great and dry. It puts you right into because it's essentially like an odd couple, buddy cop movie in essence, or a buddy fool movie going after Han Solo, and that just makes me so excited to see this back and forth, and not having it be told necessarily by one of the characters involved. This is told kind of outer from the outside, and I love that. I'm excited to see that kind of situation. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of humor through that story.
Yeah, and I think there's going to be a lot of bounty hunter fodder in this book. I think they're covering almost all, if not all, of the bounty hunters that we see in Empire that are all lined up, getting their instructions from Vader. I know for sure that we're getting at least one story from Boba Fett's point of view. I think we're going to be getting stories from Zuckuss and Forlom, I think, are the other two. So there's going to be some fun stuff for people who are into bounty hunters. And I'm sure there are a ton of those fans out there, especially now with The Mandalorian going on.
Yeah, true.
So I think this is going to be exciting. I think that, though, probably the one that I saw a lot of people really excited for this, and it's one that I'm really excited for too, is the return of Rey Sloane.
Yeah.
She was an incredible character. She was created essentially by John Jackson Miller, who wrote the first book in the new canon, A New Dawn. And so that tied into Star Wars Rebels. It was sort of a prequel for those characters. And Ray Sloan made her debut in that. She's now showed up in several other Star Wars books, including Lost Stars and the Aftermath trilogy. She's an incredibly interesting character, and it was really fun kind of getting to watch her rise through the ranks as we progress through these stories. So it's going to be really fun to kind of catch up, I think, with her in Empire and see where she's at.
Yeah. I mean, there's I was looking at one with the cave in Dagobah, right? There's even one with the Wills as well. The Wills Strike Back. That's the one by Tom Engelberger. It's chronicling this what goes on here with the Wills. May the Force be with me as I prepare to inscribe another entry in the immortal journal of the Wills a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
That's the one about the crawl, I think. That's what the one that follows, I think, what they did in the first one.
Right. And that's a really fascinating one to kind of jump into. I'm going to enjoy that as well. I love the Ray Sloan one too, because you just mentioned that one. It seems like she's going to be called to the carpet. Now she's going to have to confront Vader. But she's not backing down. So what's that going to lead to, right? A little more of that is going to get explored that I'm excited about as well. So, and like you mentioned, the bounty hunter stuff's going to be in here, but also Willrow Hood is going to be a part of this. I was doing some research on Willrow Hood because obviously I knew about Willrow Hood in passing through a number of fans who were Star Wars fans talking about it, but I had no idea there were like the runnings of Willrow Hood at these conventions, guys all dressed up as in carrying the ice cream or whatever they call it there. But of course it was used by in the Mandalorian by the Werner Herzog character to keep the payment there for the Mandalorian, the same equipment that was used. And it's even the Camtono is what it's called here. And in this one, it's called the story is called Dew on Batuu, and it's by Rob Hart. The excerpt reads, when Willrow Hood came alongside the trio, he yanked the Camtono away from her, feeling a flood of relief, having his hands on the metal container again. He nodded to the troopers. She's Rebel Alliance, and she stole my property. I'm taking it back, right? We find out that Willrow Hood was sympathetic to the rebellion, and later it was put in the canon that it stored the memory of all these contacts from the rebellion, and he went and deposited and destroyed it in a trash compactor. So to see what more we've got with him will be exciting for a lot of people who are into this character.
Yes, anyone who's been to Star Wars Celebration has probably witnessed the running of the hoods, which is, of course, a highlight of the weekend. And it's always highlighted on YouTube because it is just a delightful thing to witness, which I can definitely attest to. But yeah, I think that's going to be fun. Of course, they canonized the ice cream maker in The Mandalorian, which is fun. We've got a name for it now, and it was exciting. So I'm excited to sort of see what that is.
Yeah.
I feel like that one has like a lot to live up to, since like Willrow Hood is just such an icon now in terms of like the sort of deep pulls for people in Star Wars as fans like to get. So I think that'll be a fun one, definitely.
Yeah. What's another one that stood out for you?
There's going to be a story by from the point of view of like a Cloud City socialite, which sounds so weird that just sounds too weird to not be good. So I'm excited to see like, what is that point of view? Because you don't think much about the citizens of Cloud City. We spend a decent amount of time there in Empire, and we kind of see them on the run, but we don't know too much about like what they're about. And what the sort of like, what are the class levels in their society? She's obviously on the higher end, so it'll be interesting, I think, to see what that's all about.
There's also one about a wannabe bounty hunter. This one's from Lilium Rivera. She's marooned on a city in the clouds, faces a choice: follow the love of her life or meet her hero that could make all her dreams come true. And then the tweet ends with never meet your heroes. The excerpt says, my heart races. There's one bounty hunter I've been obsessively studying for the past couple of years. He was raised on Camino and trained by Aura Singh. He wears customized Mandalorian armor. Now that's true style. And here he is. So even that, a little bit of infatuation or obsession thrown into this with some possible romantic aspirations around it or illusions around it will be fascinating to watch and explore that as well. Because people have been super obsessed with Boba for a very, very long time. So why not have a character who kind of stands in for everyone's obsession with Boba, romantic or otherwise, and have them explore this connection with Boba?
Well, speaking of Boba Fett, I'm looking at the story that it looks like he's going to be, it's sort of going to be his point of view. And I'm just now noticing that it's going to be written by Zoraida Cordova. She wrote A Crash of Fate, which is one of the books that's sort of tied to the Galaxy's Edge publishing initiative.
Yeah.
It was a young adult book. It was fun. And she's writing, the story about Boba Fett is called Wait For It, which I feel like has to be a reference to Hamilton. Like it just has to be, because you can't do that in 2020. And it can't not be related to Hamilton. So that's my theory on it.
Yeah, apparently, and there's another story here. I love that idea too. I mean, and that does make sense. It would absolutely connect to Hamilton. That just makes so much sense in the world, and that's going to be fun to see. There's also one here about Jackson wanting to visit his friend Lando Calrissian, but couldn't have picked worse timing. This one's from Kevin Scott. Is this the one you were talking about earlier or not? Have you mentioned this one before?
I don't know if I've mentioned this. I do like Kevin Scott, though, as a writer. So I'm excited. I'm excited to read it just because my familiarity with him. He wrote Dooku Jedi Lost, the audio drama, which was incredible. Right. Very good.
Right. In this one, the excerpt says, "I'm sorry," Lobot said, narrowing his light blue eyes. "Have we met?" That took the wind out of his sails. "Have we met? Are you kidding me?" The age shook his head. "I assure you that I am not." Unbelievable. After everything they'd been through together over the years, Lobot, it's me, Jackson. So the Lobot getting a little bit of time as well in these stories to see where this goes, and maybe Lobot trying to keep Jackson away from the situation, knowing what's going to happen with the Empire and Darth Vader here as they come to Cloud City. So that'll be interesting too. A guy trying to be like, hey man, trying to find his friend, and maybe doing some weird stuff to get in touch with Lando, to get around some of the security measures so he can see his friend Lando. That'll be interesting too. And what he explores, what he sees, so, and Cloud City. And I think you mentioned earlier the idea of Cloud City through the eyes of the citizens of Cloud City, right? And we saw that in Rebels in this recent season when Ahsoka Tano goes down and meets the sisters, and the sisters start to tell her what it's like to be on the ground floor watching you highfalutin Jedi do the things that you're doing. Well, we're down here trying to eke out a living, trying to scratch out a living. So we're fighting for just to breathe. And you guys are up there, fighting for the larger, all that kind of stuff. But, Jedi have also hurt people in our family. Jedi have also crossed paths with us in not a positive way. So hearing from the citizens, I think, is a new way to explore Star Wars, because we can get so caught up with ennobling these characters without thinking about how they actually would be in a real life situation with people who aren't Jedi, what it might be to see, or from the Republic or the Alliance, what it might be to see them through their eyes,
Agreed. And I think what we're probably going to end up seeing, if I had to make any prediction, at least at some point in this book, we'll probably get some sort of reference to some of the things that we're seeing in The Mandalorian, which is that the Jedi have kind of been erased from history. It really hasn't been that long since the Republic ended and the Empire took over. But we can see that, through pretty drastic means, the Empire has gone through has taken a lot of steps to make sure that they are sort of erased from history. And I bet that that's going to come up at some point in this book too. It's always interesting to hear that, how, for us we as fans associate Jedi so strongly with Star Wars. And so it's weird when you're in the universe and people are like, oh, you mean those weird space wizards? Like, it's always kind of strange and jarring, but kind of fun. And, I don't know, brings an extra level of fun to it. One other story I wanted to mention was the fact that Gary Whitta is going to be writing a story called Rogue 2 about Zev Sinesca, which I think is really great and really poetic that he's going to be writing that, since he was I think he's one of the story by credits for Rogue One, the film. So that's kind of nice to get to see that. I feel like that's a little homage to him, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to be a lot of fun to see as well. Is there another one that's jumped out at you that you're getting excited about too? Because here's the thing. Let's pull the curtain back a little bit for Laura Kelly. Laura Kelly, not the biggest fan of The Empire Strikes Back. She likes the movie. It's just not number one on her list of movies that she likes. So could reading these stories maybe give you a better appreciation for the movie? Do you think is that thought like kind of growing inside you that you might have to reevaluate this film after reading these stories?
I'm sure it will. I'm sure it'll make me reevaluate, because I think of things like the red one about R5D4 in the first certain point of view. And like every time I watch that scene now, I'm always just like, oh, poor baby. Like, he's such a good boy. So I'm really excited to see what I take away from it. But I'm sure it'll come down to, you know, something is going to pull up my heartstrings and make me really love it. But you know what I'm also really looking forward to is what they do for Return of the Jedi. I'm jumping way far into the future, but like think about like the Jabba's palace scene and like all of the weird, funky characters in there that we can get cool stories on. So I'm pumped for that.
Hunters. Yeah, all the bounty hunters that are absolutely. The little Ewoks, all the ones that aren't Wicked. What's their stories? What did they confront? What did they go? Will we get stormtrooper stories? Is that possible? I mean, will we get don't we get some stories from the stormtroopers as well?
We definitely got them in the first book, and we're definitely getting them in this one too. And I think one of them that we're getting the story from in this new version that's out November 10th is one from, I think it's the point of view of a stormtrooper who somehow witnessed the Luke Vader confrontation.
Oh wow.
Like maybe they were out in the wings somewhere watching that happen. At least that's kind of what the story description made it sound like. So that's going to be an interesting one for sure.
Maybe they walked in on it and they're like, oh no. That's going to be fascinating too. Let's bring in this. And remember, we got the Streamlabs and Superchats open. People, send in some support for the show. Send in any questions you want to ask us. There's about 47 of y'all watching us live. Love to get that number up. So please share this video because it's happening live. And come on in, and we're gonna put the link in the chat in a little bit. People who are $10 and above on the Outlaw Nation Patreon will get to come in and ask their questions live a little bit later, and then everyone else after that will get to come in and ask their questions live. So send in your super chats, send in your Streamlabs, and get us to a certain amount so we can put this thing in a positive place. D-Train says Yankees win, bring on game 5. Cole versus Snell. Yeah, I guess a little baseball reference there in the middle of the Star Wars situation. Fascinating. Haskell says, who wouldn't want a Cy Snoodles adventure? LOL. This guy, right? There you go.
Thank you. Absolutely. No, she's crazy. But let's circle back to Empire though, because it's not in my, I would say it's probably in my like top 5. It's certainly in my top 10. Where is it for you, John?
Number 1. I mean, it's not even a question. Yeah, it's like Wrath of Khan for Star Trek's number 1. Empire Strikes Back is number 1. However, my 2 it'll always be number 1. But my 2 has changed to Rogue One. Rogue One is my second favorite Star Wars film. Absolutely. And so then it pushes down New Hope. It pushes down Jedi for me, and not The Last Jedi either. It pushes it down. So yeah, but Empire is still my number 1. I think there's just so much to explore here, Laura, which is what's exciting about this. The New Hope one was good, but New Hope is good, but Empire Strikes Back, there's just so much. You've got Hoth, you've got Dagobah, you've got Cloud City, you've got what happens with Luke and his father. Like, is there a tech guy working inside that area who watches that whole fight go on? Is we were talking about the stormtrooper maybe watching the first confrontation, but is there a stormtrooper watching that fight out on the ledge before Luke gets his hand cut off? What's that all about? So those kinds of things are fun to explore. Also, the creature there on Hoth, the Wampa there. What's the situation there? Is there going to be a story told from that point of view? Are we going to have some pity for this creature who's just trying to live? He's just trying to eat,
the Wampa and the Tauntauns. I think we're getting stories from both, and it's the same situation. Just let them live. But no, we know at least one of them dies. So
that's true.
It's gonna be sad.
Yeah, one of the stories is about them recovering Han and Luke from being out there in the wilderness, like them going, because they go and find him on the snowy wilderness. There, they go and find him eventually. So we're gonna get a story about how they came out and tried to find Han and Luke out there in the snow. So, what's going to go on with that? Will we get more about the people working the technical side of things there on the base on Hoth, and when everything's falling apart? Who's the ones who are the last ones to stay behind, and why? All of that. Who does anybody deal with Leia there on Hoth and what's happening there? And apparently we'll get a Wedge Antilles story. So will this be told from Wedge's point of view, going out there to fight the AT-ATs or the AT-ATs, however you want to say it? Will we get his point of view about the strategy he's coming up with in conversations to battle those Empire machines?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be fun because Wedge, we got so little of him in The Empire Strikes Back in the film. I mean, I think he was only in a few scenes right at the beginning, a few shots. So it'll be nice to kind of see where he's at, because I think what they alluded to in either the tweet that went along with it or the story card that they posted was that Wedge is going to be sort of stepping into like a little more of a leadership role, and maybe that's after Luke flies off and flies to Dagobah. I'm not sure, but it'll be interesting to see. He's obviously a fan favorite. People were excited to see him in Rise of Skywalker. So I think that, and I think that I wonder if he's in Star Wars Squadrons. Now that I think about it, I don't actually know. That video game's out and lots of people are playing it and lots of people are excited, but I don't know if Wedge is involved with that or not.
Another thing that's pretty cool here in the list of stories is the one from Tracy Dion, who wrote, the name of the story is called Virgins, and it's about this cave of evil on Dagobah. That's what was pitched to her, to who wrote it, Tracy Dion Hunter. She wrote it, and it's right in here. This excerpt reads, there have been many of them. Sorry, there have been many of them. So many that the number is not worth counting. This I know. What I did not know, even after a millennium of their minds in mine and mine in theirs, is why they approached me with thoughts of light and dark. These words were never enough. Why did they matter here? Here there are the deep greens of moss, the silken silver of slow mist, the dim blue of steam rising through the ever twilight. Inside me are the twisting gray shadows of desire and the bright flare crimson of wrath. So are we getting, that sounds to me like we're getting it from the cave's point of view, Laura. Is that, am I missing that?
No, I think you're right. And it's going to bring that signature weird Star Wars, which I'm here for. Not going to lie, I was a little bit confused when you first said the title, because you said Virgins and I did not hear VERGENCE. I heard VIRGINS, and I was like, wait, what's happening in Star Wars right now?
My bad.
No, that's okay. I just totally misheard it. But yeah, I'm excited because I've always talked about how much I love like the weird Force stuff. Yeah. And anytime that the Dagobah cave comes into anything, and it's showed up in Star Wars comics in really interesting ways. So I'm really excited to see what they do, where we can kind of dig in a little bit deeper to whatever this weird phenomenon is. And it sounds like, they're gonna let it get weird, which I'm pumped for.
Let's hit a couple super chats that have come in here. Justin Toner says, I'm excited for the Wampa, the Dark Side Cave, Yoda, Obi-Wan, L3, Wedge, Veers, Ray Sloan, and all the bounty hunters stories. Surprised no Hera story. Yeah, did that surprise you too, Laura?
It did, because I think we've seen in Star Wars comics that she was on Hoth at some point. There's actually, I think there's a comic where she's kind of training Leia to ride, because I think Leia isn't really getting the hang of it. She's not like communicating with the Tauntaun or getting along with it very well. And so Hera sort of coaches her through it. If I recall, I'm sure I didn't read it. I just saw a picture of it, but I would have been nice to see it. I want to see Hera show up in more. And I just saw, I actually just saw like a comment, I think on Facebook today, in a Star Wars Rebels group I'm in, that somebody else made the comment, like, I really wish we could get like a Hera book, like an entire novel from her point of view, and see what's going on. And that's what I really want. But I would take a preview in the form of a little story. And Empire, if they want to add a number 41, like I've nothing against that. I'll wait.
a deleted story as opposed to a deleted scene that they would add to it. Yeah, I guess so. A reissue in paperback, then they would add it. Oh no, well, I guess maybe it is coming out in paperback already. I don't know how they're doing these books. Did the first one come out? Do you remember if the first one came out in paperback or came out in hardback?
I'm sure it came out in hard copy. In fact, I'm pretty sure that's how it worked. But I think I remember hearing a little bit about like what the process was like. Putting together this book and then the one before it, which is that I think they get the story suggestions from the authors. I don't think that they have a big board and they're assigning stories to authors. I think the authors are actually coming to them with ideas of what they want to write about. So I would have been, that would have been me pushing for the hair. I would have been like in the back of the room where there actually was like a drawing board of options. And then like, can we just suggest it to someone? Can we push it like a little piece of paper under the door? Just hint, maybe something.
Is that too much to ask?
I'm not asking for the world here.
I've seen them go, but a lot of these authors are saying that they came to them and then they pitch their stories from there. So maybe they are pitching stories, but they've been like kind of asked or communicated with to see what they would come up with. And maybe there was a Hera pitch, but maybe there wasn't a good enough Hera pitch, or maybe they want to save Hera for something down the road.
Oh, that's my hope. My hope is that
right?
it's just they're just saving it. So yeah, fingers crossed there. But yeah, that's an awesome suggestion, Justin. And I wanted to point out he talked about one I don't think that we covered, which is Veers. General Veers is getting a story, which is really cool. I know that the Twitter account Veers Watch was probably very excited for this day that there was something announced that General Veers would be appearing in. And I think that story, whatever the title was, it had something to do with Game of Thrones.
Oh.
I think the tweet maybe that went with it that Del Rey tweeted was now his watch has ended or something, and I was like, oh yeah, I see what you did there. But I can't find it now. But yeah, that was the hint.
One of the other ones that's in here, Hank Green wrote one that chronicles the life of a naturalist caring for Tountauns on the frozen world of Hoth. So maybe we won't get from the Tountauns point of view, but we'll get it like almost like a Richard or David Attenborough point of view, caring for the Tountauns. I would love it if they released it with David Attenborough doing the voiceover, reading that story. That would be incredible. I've been watching the one that just dropped on Netflix. His voice is like ear crack. I mean, I just like once it goes in there, I just want to listen to him for hours and hours on end. He's just so soothing when he talks about it, and he's stilted and old, and so it's like it's great to listen to. So it would be funny if they were to get him to do the voiceover for this particular story as a naturalist. So
absolutely, but if they don't, I hope that they at least get someone who can imitate it as well as you just did, because that was solid. I'm not gonna lie, that was good. We're big fan. My sister and I are big fans of all the planet Earth stuff in this house. So that's a lot of the default that happens on the TV.
Yeah, I just saw the one with the polar bears, the frozen one, and all the seals and the narwhals and all that pretty fascinating stuff. So, see, Jared the Dark Jedi says, "I've said it before and I'll say it again. This is one of the most fun shows on right now. Such a great idea for a crossover with you guys." Oh, thank you, Jared.
That's very kind. Thanks, Jared. We appreciate that. That's really nice. Jared's a good friend. He's a good guy.
Oh my God. Molly Damon is in here. Molly, thank you so much. She said, yay, Veers Watch. Yeah, absolutely. She's loving the idea of this situation as well. Molly, tell us what stories are standing out for you, Molly. What's the ones? I'll bring it up. Oh, here we go. There it is on cue. I hope we get an Ahsoka story and the Return of the Jedi one from a certain point of view when Anakin's Force ghost visits her. Oh, interesting.
Oh, God. Really pulling at the heartstrings already. Can you imagine? That's gonna be solid. That's good. That's a good idea. Damn, Molly. I love it.
That'd be a good one. That would be a good one. Perry Wakefield says we need a Chopper POV story. I mean, a cantankerous Chopper POV story about wherever he's at, I think would be super fascinating.
It's going to be very dark.
Yeah, it would be
very dark.
Yeah, it's like Archie Bunker with anger for that's an old reference, but you guys get it. Anyway, she says when if. Yeah, when if. Hopefully, we shall see. We shall see. Another one that stood out for me, what I was looking at one before I wanted to read. Oh, yeah. This is the one. It's called Hunger from Mark Oshiro. Did you ever hear the tragedy of the Wampa on Hoth? And this one is something filled him. He had never sensed this before. There was now a cavern in him, one that ate at his gut, that seemed to grow bigger and bigger with each passing of a sun overhead. He tried to fill it with food, picking off prey here and there, but while his hunger was sated, the other sensation bloomed. He was empty without his clan. He waited, he watched, he despaired. I feel like this is the one that's going to break you, Laura. I feel like this feels like the sad one, yeah?
That's going to be a sad one. Yeah, I can definitely see that. I was just looking and I realized that there is another one from the Tauntaun by Delilah Dawson, who is another one of my absolute favorite writers in the Star Wars universe. All of her books are amazing. She wrote Phasma, so good. But yeah, nice. She's doing one. It looks like from the story of the Tauntaun, and the title is "She Will Keep Them Warm." Like, oh God, what the hell, Delilah Dawson? That's gonna be good. I'm excited for that. I love all these illustrations too, by the way. Like these story cards that Del Rey released, like so cool. It's like it's very simple in its design, which I appreciate, and it's just it's super fun. I think this is gonna be a great book to have in hardcover when it comes out.
Oh, absolutely. I can't wait. And the look of it is fantastic as well. I should have brought, maybe I can make a quick graphic for us to take a look at to show an example for some people who maybe haven't seen it yet, to see what this is, how they're putting them up on. And you can go to the Twitter account at Del Rey Star Wars. And each one of these has a separate, each one of these stories has a separate tweet out with it, with a panel like this and a design and an excerpt from this. And it is on sale November 10th. I'm going to try to reach out and shake the tree a little bit. Laura, I don't know if you get things early with your Star Wars connections, but I'm going to try to reach out to Del Rey, shake the tree a little bit and see if we can get an early copy of this and maybe do a preview review of this as well. Yeah. Did you get the first one ahead of time, or did you just buy it when it came out?
I wasn't on the list back then. I'm on the list now. So hopefully hopefully it'll show up here one of these days. But it really varies. Like sometimes they show up like the day the book comes out, and sometimes it's like 3 months before. It's weird.
Oh, wow.
But really? I think it'll be fun. But yeah, if people do want more details and want to see more about what these stories are all about, John had mentioned going to the Del Rey Star Wars Twitter account. If you click on the media tab, you can scroll through and kind of see them a lot in an easier sort of sequence.
Oh, great point.
And then it looks like on the Del Rey Facebook page, they also created an album of all of these story cards as well, which is really helpful and a nice, easy way to sort of scroll through them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me see if I can bring it up. All right. Is there another one that you want to touch on, or you want to kind of get into that stood out to you as well?
You know, that covered most of mine. The fact that John Jackson Miller is going to be writing another story is really exciting for me. I just love seeing some of these familiar names, Daniel Jose Older, Zoraida Cordova, all these authors that, you know, that we've seen a lot of, or not even seen so much of. Cavan Scott's involved with the High Republic. So it's really exciting to see that he made the time to get involved with this project as well. But yeah, so many it looks like a lot of them are involved with the High Republic. I don't think there's a Claudia Gray story in here. I could be wrong, but I don't remember seeing her name anywhere, which is sort of unusual. But I imagine that like a lot of the people who are involved with High Republic, that's very keeping them very busy, I'm sure.
Oh, and that's part of it. That's a fair point. And we'll get to the High Republic in just a second. We did have a Streamlab that came, a couple Streamlabs that came through here. Curbside-Prophet13 donated. He said, "Picture this: Kenobi series. A crazed Mace Windu lands on Tatooine, body scarred, mechanical hand, cloudy eyes. His goal: eliminate the Skywalker line and right his mistake of allowing Anakin to destroy the Jedi from within." Thoughts on that?
I love that idea. And then what if he came back in The Rise of Skywalker at the very end and just like killed Rey with a blaster right at the end, where she's like, "I'm Rey Skywalker."
I don't want to say what he might say.
Right. I love the idea of robotic Mace Windu, or any form of Mace Windu coming back, because man, after like season 7 of the Clone Wars, after watching that season, I was like, oh my God, I'm so glad that dude died. What a dick. Like I was so much happier that he was dead after watching that. But he's still such a badass, awesome character that it would be lovely to see him in more. But I doubt it's going to happen, but I'm not opposed to it.
Molly Damon says, "I'm most excited for the guy who walks in between Han and Leia in the South Passage on Hawk."
Oh, that's right.
LOL. That's right.
That's going to be a good one. This is going to be fun. And that's going to be one of the first ones at the beginning. So it'll help kind of set the tone for, like, I'm sure the humor in the book, which will be great. That is the nice thing about this book, is it does follow the sequence of events in the film. So like, we'll see the early stuff on Hoth first and then sort of progress through the book. So it's great that they structure it like that. Kind of
another one. There's another one in here that deals with Palpatine, and I'm going to bring up this example that Laura was talking. There's what it looks like there when you go to Twitter. The little excerpt and a little excerpt from the book, or from the story rather, and then the illustration they have there. This one is from Mike Chen. It's called "Disturbance." Sheer will powered Palpatine through, as it always did, fending off the determination of someone or something wanting to hide this, a secret held so tightly that the very desire to protect it gave itself away, if only for a blink. Much as the Force spoke to the rebel pilot who destroyed the Death Star, it revealed itself to Palpatine here. Oh, interesting. Not by guiding the launch of torpedoes, but with a vision. What Palpatine saw in the Force should have frightened him. Wow, that's Interesting, Laura. That is an interesting wow. I don't know what to say. That kind of threw me for a loop a little bit. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's going to be interesting at all to see anything from Palpatine because he's only in the movie for about 4 seconds.
Yeah,
and has like 3 lines. So we didn't, when people saw that, you didn't really get the full, I think, like picture of what Palpatine really was. So this at the time. So I think this will be great to sort of dive a little bit deeper into like where is he conceptually in like this story at this moment? Where is his headspace? And kind of what's going on with him and Vader. I think that'll be definitely something interesting to see because I think it's one of those things where we sort of know, I guess it was the Afra audio drama that just came out where we learn how and where and when Vader finds out that Luke is his son. Right. And Afra is a part of that. And then there's kind of this whole thing between Afra and Vader and the Emperor and this confrontation, but you're not sure if it's real or not because Afra's not a very reliable narrator, so she could have been making the whole thing up. So it's kind of weird, but it'll be interesting to see something that like we're pretty sure is like in canon. We're pretty sure it's a true story. Like I think we can take we can rely on it and see where he's at this point. That'll be fun.
Yeah, Afra would be interesting, right? I mean, people have been clamoring for an Afra series or an Afra, I don't know, movie. Could you do one? Could you do a Disney Plus Afra movie? Is that possible? I've
heard more rumblings of a television series happening, which seems like it might be better because with Afra, I feel like you have to spend the time getting to know her a little bit. Like it'd be hard to do it all in one movie and really kind of like to really draw people in to commit to her. I feel like you have to build it up a little bit. Yeah. Because that's just how she is. For me, Afra's not like my favorite character. I've had this thing where I did read some of the comics. I listened to the audio drama and I'm just like, I don't fully understand the appeal. I don't know, but people really love her. Like they are really, really into her as a character, and I'm happy that they're happy. But yeah, for me, she's just a little bit. She's just weird. She's a little weird, and she feels like she's kind of weird for the sake of being weird, and not for any other reason.
Interesting.
Like she's just supposed to be quirky, just because there has to be a quirky character. I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird thing I have with Afra. I don't know what it is. She's not the character for me. She wasn't put out in Star Wars for me.
Are you nerd shaming Afra? Are you nerd shaming? You're not.
Oh, she's like, she's like this weird, quirky Indiana Jones character. But she's not. I don't know. I don't know what they were going for. I don't get it. Not for me. It's fine. Okay. But again, people love her, so it's fine.
They do.
I do think it's going to be interesting to hear a little bit more about Admiral Ozzel. Yeah. In this, we see very little of him. He gets force choked by Vader very quickly. Right. Vader calls him clumsy and stupid, and that's kind of it. But I've always had this weird thing with Ozzel. I feel like he was like maybe like a rebel spy that was somehow like had gotten himself into the Empire and then risen through the ranks, but he was still like a spy for the rebellion because he's just some of the things that he does and the actions he takes and the way that, he delivers lines kind of made me always think that. Yeah. So I'd be curious to see if like anybody digs a little deeper into that or if that's ever canonized.
That could be fun. Absolutely, that could be fun. Molly Damon, very kind to donate a little bit, said this. Just saying hi, and I love hearing you two talk Star Wars. Oh, it's very kind, Molly. Thank you so much for taking the time to come in. Much love to you.
Yeah, thanks, Molly. I love hearing you talk about Star Wars.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I often do. I spend a lot of time over at Star Wars, watching videos. I'm excited for those.
She said, I love Delilah Dawson. And she had another one here. I don't know where it is. I'm trying to find it. That was really, surprise no Lobot story. Yeah, there isn't a direct Lobot story, but apparently Lobot does appear in that story about the guy, a friend of Lando's who's trying to get a hold of him or trying to get in touch with him. So I wonder if he'll have a bigger part in that story than maybe Lando does, because this guy's trying to get to Lando. Maybe Lobot is monitoring him and trying to stop him at every turn. That could be possible. So maybe not from a Lobot point of view, but maybe Lobot is a significant part of that story. I don't know. That's possible.
Yeah, we'll see how he plays in. I kind of like the mystery, leaving him out a little bit, sort of maintains the mystery around him and whatever his deal is. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Or maybe they're exploring it somewhere else in the canon that I just don't know about. I mean, I think what's going on, the main run of the Star Wars comic that's on right now, I think is that taking place between Empire and Return of the Jedi. So I'm sure there's probably more going on with him in that.
Yeah. Jared, the Dark Jedi, also said, since Return of the Jedi, from a certain point of view, will come out eventually, what stories would you want to see from that? I think Hera's side of Endor would be the best move for her to get a story. So maybe that's what it is. That's where Hera will show up. What about you? What stands out for you? What would you like to see?
I would certainly be down for that. It would be great to see maybe a little flash to like Lothal and see what Sabine is doing, because we see that epilogue in Star Wars Rebels where it kind of looks like she's just been hanging out on Lothal for the last 4 years while the war's been waging across the galaxy.
Right.
I would love to get a little bit of insight like into her head at that point and maybe figure out like what has she been doing there the last 4 years. Obviously helping to rebuild Lothal in some aspect because it's beautiful at the end of at the end of the story. But I would love to see something from her. I'm always here for Hera stories, no matter what. Like I'm down for that. We saw a little bit, I think, in Forces of Destiny of her interacting with Han and with Leia. So to be inside of her head when any of that's going on, I'm here for that. Yeah. But yeah, those are the first things that come to mind for me naturally as Star Wars Rebels references.
Yeah,
how about
absolutely.
you, John? What are you hoping for with Return of the Jedi, the version of this?
Jeez, there's so much. I mean, I know we don't really get the main characters, but I mean, Luke shows up and he's a badass. So what happened around this time to get him to that point? It's more than just losing his hand. It's more like I'd like to see something almost like kind of a, not a prequel story, but a pre-story to Return of the Jedi to see how Luke like fully embraced recovering from that battle with his father and losing his hand, and like what happened to him personally, what finally turned him into this really badass guy who could walk into Jabba's palace and do the things that he did. You know, I'd like to see something from that point of view. I'd love to see a story from the point of view of Jabba's accountant. Like, let's find out Jabba's accountant. What is the numbers here? Is Jabba in trouble here? You know, why does Han Solo keep getting away with it? Why does it, like, what's the situation? Is he a frustrated accountant? Like, why do you keep letting Han get away with it? We're down every month. We're losing money. You need to be a little bit of a harder hut. You know, I mean, I just would like to see something where we get something that could be a lot of fun as well. Maybe told from the point of view, one of the bounty hunters sitting in the palace with Jabba. Maybe they're a spy for another a planet or a species or another part of this situation. What could they be doing in here as well? Yeah, those are the ones that leap to mind. What about you? Oh, you already answered it. Is there another one that leaps to mind for you?
Well, I gotta say that Jabba's accountant one for me is the best, because I feel like that is 100% number one what they're going for, and two, I feel like that has to be like that it's just so random and weird to like not include it. So I love that inclusion of whoever is sitting behind the scenes. You mentioned the story of Luke, and somebody I think somebody was tweeting about it. It may have been Tom, as one of the editor at Del Rey. And he was talking about how, people had requested like, oh, I would like to write a story from the point of view of Leia or Han or Luke. Right. And basically Del Rey to come to them and be like, this isn't about them. Empire's from their point of view. The original trilogy is from their point of view. We're wanting to get this from the other characters' point of view. But I feel like wasn't there a deleted scene from the beginning of Return of the Jedi where Luke is building the green lightsaber? Yeah,
with the kyber crystals and everything like that. Yeah. But I mean, But
you could do it like before that. You could set something like right before that, like where he goes to the cave, and maybe it's like the dude that like drives him to Ilum or something. I don't know, that knows where the cave is, and so he takes him there, and maybe there's something there. With the green kyber crystal and how he comes to find that and build that lightsaber as like a sort of part of that story. I don't know.
Or maybe he goes back to Dagobah and goes back in that cave. And then we're getting a second story from the cave's point of view going, oh, you again, what do you want? And so there's a journey there for Luke. So the cave is still telling the story from their point of view, or its point of view. But Luke is a central part of the story. That could be interesting as well. Just to let you guys know, this is what the book looks like. This is what all the authors are listed on both sides of the book. Pretty incredible. I'm personally looking forward to it, and having this conversation with Laura is making me even more excited for it coming out on November 10th. So many great authors, so many new authors, so many returning authors. It's a great mix of talent involved to bring these stories to life here for our pleasure, our reading pleasure, or listening pleasure, as Laura said. She likes to do these through the audiobooks. Let's see here. Oh, yeah. Molly said Salacious B. Crumb. Absolutely. Having a salacious story. Yeah, how did he end up at the hut situation? What's it like with him there? Like, because how can he get away with being such a jerk off the whole time while he's there? Like, those kinds of things could be explored.
You know what the heartstring puller is going to be in the Return of the Jedi one is the story of the Bothans. When we get that one's going to kill you.
Sure,
that one's going to hurt.
Sure. Did we get much with the Praetorian with the Rancor trainer? Like, what's his story afterwards? Right? Do we get more with him?
There's only one little hint of or like one sort of little chapter of what's going on with him in the Aftermath trilogy.
Right.
Malakili, but we don't have a ton about him. That'd be nice to see. Like, how did the Rancor come to be in his care, and what was their relationship like, and how did that build? Right. And that would be an interesting one to get to.
Yeah. Let's see. Curbside Prophet 13 says Lobot's story is touched on the Lando comic series. I think the contraption on his head is slowly taking over his brain, but it also keeps him alive. So that could be. Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, I thought the Lando series was cool. It was very 70s. I dug it. Maybe some of the story fell short at times, but I thought overall I enjoyed it for what it was. But the Vader one is the one to read. The Vader's been killing it. I mean, that Vader series has been great for sure. Any thoughts on that one, Laura?
No, I'm not a big comics reader, but that's really interesting that Lobot came up somewhere. I figured that had to have been explored at some point in the canon, so that's good to know.
Yeah. We got a couple of Streamlabs that have come through. Keep sending in the Streamlabs and Super Chats. We're an hour into the show. We'd love to get some more support from you, more questions. Ask us. Let us know what stories you're looking forward to. What's a Star Wars question you've always wanted to ask Laura, or a Schmodown question you've wanted to ask her? We're trying out doing these shows, like a live show once a month. We're playing around with it. So let us know what you want to ask her. Tushka POV. Tushka, my man, what's up? He says, in regards to Hera and continuing her story, would you rather have a comic, a novel, a movie, or a recurring role in The Mandalorian?
I've always hesitated about wanting to see a live action of Hera, because I feel like whenever I see a live action Twilight, it doesn't super work for me. Even in The Mandalorian, seeing Natalia Tena in that role, it just didn't super work. So I don't know if I really want to see it, because I don't want to have like my animated Hera ruined, because that's how I perceive her. Even like I saw some of the images of what she looks like in Star Wars Squadrons, and it just was so weird to me that they had Vanessa Marshall doing the mocap for that, and then they didn't really make her look like Vanessa Marshall, which the animated character kind of has the same face shape. So I'm just like, you couldn't have that's fine. That's one interpretation, I suppose. But I think an animated series is kind of where I'd like to stick, but I would also love a book. I would also love to like spend some time actually in her head, and kind of get a feel for like where she is in all of these, mentally, emotionally, in all these different parts of this story that we know so well, but we don't really know where she's falling into line in it. So a book, I think, is my number one choice. As much as it would be cool to see her on screen again, I want to be able to dig a little deeper.
Yeah, that's fair. Jared the Dark Knight also saying this podcast is proof that Rocha belongs in corruption. Slow down. Slow it down.
Who says he's invited?
Laura bringing the hammer. All right, I respect it. Alan Smithy says, hey, Laura and Rocha, I thought I knew Star Wars, but who the heck is Dr. Aphra? Oh, Smithy. Glad to hear about new Star Wars stories from the experts. Laura, what is your most emotional moment from Rebels, excluding Kanan's death scene? I love the Per Gill finale.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one. One of the weirdest things that happened for me, because as much as I love Star Wars Rebels, Sabine and Ezra were not my favorite characters in it. I never really connected with them very much.
Okay.
But in the finale, there's this really, and I blame the music, the goddamn Kiner brothers, like Kim and Kiner with the music in season 4. I mean, Jesus. But there's this moment in Rebel I'm pretty sure it's the finale, because it's right before the Purgle take off.
Yeah.
And Sabine and Ezra sort of have this moment where Ezra needs to go, and Hera doesn't want him to go, but Hera turns her back for a second and Sabine kind of distracts her and Ezra sneaks off and he escapes. And before he does, like he and Sabine kind of just look at each other and they just have this moment of like acknowledgement where she knows what she has to do. She doesn't want to do it because this like kid is like her brother. It's been with her for the last 5 years and it's really hard, but she knows she has to help him. And so it's a really emotional moment that touched me in this way that surprised me so much because I just have never like connected with either of those characters in any big way. And the fact that that was one of those moments where I was just like, oh my God, like kill me like that. Yeah, that was a surprising one. And it's a surprisingly emotional moment for me in the finale.
I don't know if I've had an emotional moment in that whole series other than Kanan's death. Because that just broke me. That absolutely broke me. And Freddie did such a fantastic job voicing over that role and voicing over that scene, especially was everything. I hear you on the Ezra. I don't have the connection to Ezra that other people might have who enjoyed Rebels. I always felt like Sabine should have been running everything. It's the issue you see sometimes in these stories where, because it's a male chosen person, you have to, create the story around him. You have to forgive him all these mistakes. But here is the female part of the story who is doing everything, is on top of it, is aware of what to do right, is all over like we saw with Aquaman. It should never have been Aquaman running Atlantis. It should have been Mara. Mara knew everything to do at every moment better than that idiot Arthur did. Yet she can't run the city or whatever it is down there, the Empire. It was ridiculous. And watching Sabine rarely make a mistake, know exactly what to do in pretty much every situation, even when all that stuff was happening on Mandalore, it was like, well, why is Ezra even remotely the lead of this show? In the last 2 seasons, it drove me insane because Sabine should have been the chosen one doing everything and getting involved in it. And now that they have to go find him, that drives me even more nuts. They did redeem him to a degree in the last few episodes of the last season, but for me, he was getting annoying after a while. So I hear you. Kanan was definitely my favorite. I'm imagining Hera was your favorite. So
I loved Kanan too, though, and I totally agree. Yeah, Freddie Prinze Jr. just absolutely killed it as that role. Love it. Yeah. That's a great finale. And I know that a lot of people really love Twin Sons. That was a very there was a lot of like heavy emotion in that. In that story, especially tying it into, the original trilogy, that was a big pull, I think, for a lot of people. It was really moving. As jarring as it sort of was to sort of see how quickly things went down between Obi-Wan and Maul, like it was also still like, it was so, I don't know, loaded. It was great.
Yeah, I agree with you. That was a pretty good moment. I didn't get emotional, but certainly I felt that. It's my favorite episode for a number of reasons. And, the samurai thing is incredible. All right, let's see if I've got any more Streamlabs that have come through, any more super chats. Keep them in, people. We got another 30 minutes left in the show. We're going to bring some people in live to ask some questions now. Let's start off with Sean. Sean, you've been waiting. What's going on? Let me take the brand down so you're not covered. Sean Barreto, this is Laura Kelly. If you guys haven't met, say hello.
Hello, Laura, again. No, we met when she was on the animation show.
Your microphone is a little hairy, man.
I'm sorry, because it's kind of, I'm trying out this blue mic that I have now. No, but I met Laura when she was on the
it's bad. Show. It's bad, bro. It's really bad.
Okay.
Is there another microphone you can use?
Wait, take me out.
Okay, I'll take you down. You heard that too, right, Laura? It wasn't
I did. Me? Yeah, no, that was, yeah, no.
Cool. All right, Justin Toner, what's up, dude? Good to see you. How are you doing?
Hi, Justin.
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Awesome.
Well, I was curious because I got back into Star Wars in the 90s with the Expanded Universe, the Thrawn trilogy. That was the first stuff I read. So I was wondering, both like for like the old Legend stuff and also current, what are some of your favorite like books that you've read?
Well, I have not read any Legends material at this point, and I probably never will. I'm when it comes to Star Wars trivia, I try to stick with canon because otherwise I get too many things in my brain and get confused. So I'll probably stick with canon. But of all the books that I've read, and I've read most of the canon novels, probably like maybe 2/3 of them. My favorite one is Dark Disciple. That's one that I recently read because I put it off because it was set in the prequels and set in the Clone Wars, and I was just like, I don't know if I need to read this story. Like, I like the Clone Wars. I like Rebels more. That's my favorite Star Wars. So I just never, I put off reading it for so long. And when I finally read it, I was just like, I hate myself. I don't know what I was doing thinking I could live without this book because it's so good. It's an amazing story. Quinlan Vos, Asajj Ventress, again, two characters that I'm just like, I don't know if I really care about those people. I care about them a lot. You're going to care about them a lot if you read it. It's an amazing book.
Yeah, I haven't read that one. That's one of the ones I haven't read yet. So I'll definitely have to check that one out.
Yeah. Christian Harloff is a big fan of that one as well. Asajj Ventress is an awesome, awesome character.
I've enjoyed everything by Claudia Gray. I mean, like Lost Stars just like blew me away when everybody was like recommending it. So like she's become one of my favorites. Like Timothy Zahn for the stuff he did back with the Legend stuff was like one of my top favorite artists, but she's kind of like edged him out. I mean, he's still pretty good. I mean, I've enjoyed a lot of the Thrawn stuff that he's done. I still need to finish the
Chaos Rising.
Yeah. Well, I haven't actually finished Treason. I've read through the first two books. I've Thrawn and then Thrawn Allegiance, but I haven't finished Treason yet. So, and then Chaos Rising was the new one, and I haven't gotten that yet. So, but she's been amazing. I mean, Bloodline 2 was like, I was just like
Bloodline was great. Bloodline was cool.
Yeah, I've never read a Claudia Gray book I didn't like. Her Star Wars writing is incredible. I think Master and Apprentice probably wouldn't hit my top 4. It's probably Lost Stars is I think my second favorite Star Wars novel I've ever read. But Leia, Princess of Alderaan is really solid.
I have that one.
Oh yeah. Don't write it. Like it's a young adult book, and I think people sort of like write it off because of that. Don't. It's so good. It's an incredible book. It's got that like signature Claudia Gray, like really compelling characters, and just she's a great storyteller. So Lost Stars is my second, and then Bloodline you mentioned is great. I'm trying to think of what some of my other favorites are, but I was going to ask you if you've started Chaos Rising, because it's one of those that it took me a really long time to get into it, and I actually had to stop and start over. And because I wasn't connecting with it, and now I hit like chapter 17, and now it finally has like connected to what else is happening in the Star Wars universe. Like it took this long to get to it though, and I'm like, okay, but it's fine. It's good now. It just took me a long time to really get into this one.
Oh, that's good to know. One of the other ones I loved was I wish more from James Luceno, because like Catalyst, the Rogue One prequel was really surprised me how well that was done. That one was really good, and Tarkin too. Tarkin was another really good one that I really enjoyed.
Those are two I haven't read yet. They're on my list, and I have them. I just haven't read them yet.
Tarkin was really fascinating getting inside of his head. He ended up being a lot more scary than I thought. I mean, I always thought he was scary from just watching A New Hope, but when you get inside his head and Tarkin, oof, man, he was, there's a reason why Palpatine liked him, man, because that guy was scary, really scary.
There's a reason that guy was like one of the few people that could like control Vader to an extent, was because of that sort of darkness he probably had.
That's why he still worked in Rogue One when you saw him, because you were like, the Uncanny Valley freaks me out, but it kind of works for this guy because he seems like he could be this messed up in the face, you'd be this dark, like where it's something else operating his brain or his face, I agree. Did you read the Thrawn book, the new one that Zahn released, or did you not read that one?
I haven't read that one yet. I only read the first one, and then Thrawn Alliances, which has half the book is the flashback to when he met Anakin and Padme during the Clone Wars, and they worked together on a mission. I really liked that. That was really cool seeing Thrawn interact with the two of them.
The cool thing about Thrawn Alliances, and for some reason that book doesn't get as much love as I think it should get. I think a lot of people really liked the first and third book in the new Thrawn trilogy, but didn't care so much for that one, and I don't know why, because I really enjoyed it, and it was one of the first times that and maybe it was just because it kind of forces you to do this, but it was sort of one of the first times that I really reconciled in my head, like how Anakin and Vader are still kind of, how Anakin's still in there. Like, it's not just like this like mindless machine. Like he's still in there. And it's really weird how they dig into and explore that component of Vader's character. And, Anakin, we get past and We get Clone Wars era Anakin, and we have like Empire Strikes Back era, I think.
Right.
And Vader as well. And it's really, really interesting bouncing back and forth.
Right.
The way that Zahn handles it, I think, is really well balanced. And it made it for a really interesting story. So I really like Thrawn Alliances for that reason. It also made me think that it also finally gave me the impression that Padme was actually kind of cool. I've never been a big fan of that character. I think the prequels did her dirty. That's not her fault, but she was really, really cool in Thrawn Alliances. Like, she was just much more of a badass than I've ever seen her.
Yeah, no. Now, seems like a lot of the novels have done, and also the Clone Wars cartoon did a good job of like really resuscitating her character in a lot of ways.
Yeah, they definitely redeemed her in a lot of ways for me too. But I think for some reason, like Thrawn Alliances, like they upped the ante with Padme and made her very, very cool.
Because it's interesting how he's like Vader views Anakin as like as a separate person, but yet he's still in there. So it's like it's really where he's trying to like divorce himself. That he like Anakin was like this other being that existed that he's trying to separate himself from, but he can't completely do it.
Well, he can't also because Thrawn is in his face being like, "You're Anakin. I know you're Anakin." And Vader's just like, "Dude,
he's that smart."
Yeah.
Yeah, like the same thing when Ahsoka confronted him in Rebels in the season 2 finale. It's like, he's like, Anakin Skywalker is dead. I killed him. It's like, talking to him like treating Anakin like he's a whole nother person.
Yeah.
Love it.
That's it. That whole finale still gets to me just thinking about it.
Seriously, Twilight of the Apprentice. It's amazing.
Ben Solo struggling with the light. Get some illusions there. All right. Thanks, Justin. It's good to see you. Thank you so much for coming in, man. Appreciate it, brother.
Thanks,
John and Laura.
Much love. All right, let's bring in Sean. I think he fixed his mic. All right, Sean. What's going on?
How does it sound now?
Yay, much better.
Okay, cool. Because I messed with some of the settings. My bad. So I personally just want to get you guys' opinion on what about and unfortunately this is not a book question, but what about a Phasma Disney Plus series? So not necessarily Captain Phasma, just kind of how she rose to the ranks, and then the show could kind of end with her getting the captaincy, and then kind of her starting to recruit the kids, how they eventually got Finn and things like that.
Yeah,
and kind of redeeming the character a little bit. What do you guys think?
Did you read the Phasma novel by chance? I
have not. It's
really, really good. I think if this is the kind of story that you're interested in, you should definitely look into it, because Phasma's really dark, and she's always been really dark, and you see the evidence of sort of how dark it can get with her, based on like kind of where she came from and what her family situation was, and the role that she served in her tribe before she joined the First Order. It's a crazy story. And it's another one where you're kind of bouncing back and forth between two timelines. Star Wars likes to do that, I think, a lot. And it's an interesting one. I think they could definitely build on it. It would certainly be interesting to see some of the characters in that book like play out in live action. But it's a pretty dark story. I almost am like, I don't know how they would make it like, because Star Wars has to be, some component of it has to be like for kids, like, and I'm like, that story's so dark, and Phasma is such an evil bitch that like I don't know how you'd even pull that off. It's nuts.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not surprising your suggestion, man, because I mean, like these, like we just mentioned here a few minutes ago, or a couple of minutes ago, the idea of how these TV shows redeem these characters when they mess it up in the movies, right? Anakin was pretty much written off until they revived him in a better way and rounded out his story in the Clone Wars, and that whole relationship with him and Ahsoka really saved that character from being just a laughingstock for a lot of people who saw those prequels, who were original trilogy fans and saw those prequels and just hated the portrayal that Christian did of Anakin. Watching it be done in Clone Wars kind of redeemed him, and the same thing here that could happen here with Phasma. We could get her redeemed as well and see a little more of her story, because not everyone's going to read that book, Laura. But people will watch a TV show, or people watch a series here and get into seeing her story told a little more respectfully, with a little more things, a little more aspects of it fleshed out, so that we could really enjoy a three-dimensional character that we can see facets to and possibly see pop up down the road in a from certain point of view book as they get further along in the series.
And I feel like you could totally get Gwendolyn Christie back, right? Like I feel like she would totally come back and do it and like play like, wouldn't it be cool to kind of like see her wandering around her little like first order dorm and like take off her helmet? I'd be like, oh my god, it's Gwendolyn Christie.
Or just, I mean, anything, just because I think like you get that amazing actress and you kind of waste her, for lack of a better word, in the two movies. And I just want to see, like, they built her up. I'm like, there's got to be something there that made the movies kind of focus in on her. So there's got to be something more there. And I agree with John. Like the book, the way you're pitching the book to me sounds interesting. But I think if you want to, there's a lot more potential there for. I think she deserves her own show. If Boba Fett was going to get his own movie, Phasma should get her own show, for crying out loud. So I mean, because they're kind of on the same equal playing field, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's fair.
She is kind of the Boba Fett of the sequel trilogy, where she's just underrated, underused, and it's unfortunate. Be nice to see her come back. Be nice to find out that like somehow she survived. Like that was the greatest thing about the Phasma novel that you took away from it, is that Phasma is nothing if not a survivor. Right. Like the things that she has endured and survived, like it's crazy that we got so little of her in the films and then she went down like that. I'm like, but how though? Bring her back. You can do it.
Maybe she had a traumatic thing in her past with garbage disposals, and it just like once she heard it, she just kind of like freaked out in her mind. She had like PTSD or something. I don't know.
Maul got cut in half and he came back.
Right.
Like somebody can make it happen.
I've always believed that she never died at the end of Last Jedi when she fell through the fiery thing and all that. I didn't think she died.
Yeah, that's what I thought too, because I had read the Phasma novel and I was like, no, Phasma's a survivor. There's no way.
I've always believed you don't see a body, it ain't dead. So to me, you haven't seen that. And even they brought the Emperor back, and he went into that exhaust of the base there. So for God's sakes, if you can bring him back, you can certainly bring Phasma back.
True.
Yeah, I was always expecting her to pop up in the last movie, just as like a surprise cameo. And I'm like, surprise, I'm back. One more real quick thing.
And kill Finn.
Yeah. That would have been great.
All right.
Oh my
you
God.
wouldn't see that coming.
Yeah. One more quick thing. What do you think about a trilogy about like them exploring the Jedi and the Sith in the really early days of their conflict, like building the first lightsabers, kind of like their first like real conflict? Like I would be really, really like I want to see it, but I don't know if Disney, if we can entrust the story group that's in place now to tell that kind of story, because once you tell that kind of story, it leads into all other things. But I'd be fascinated to see a trilogy or even a standalone movie that kind of talks about the early goings of the Jedi and the Sith. What do you guys think?
We're going past Knights of the Old Republic all the way back to the beginning. So sure, I'd be down with that. I don't think we're there yet. I think we still got to repair the crap we've been putting out. Not only the crap, I don't mean crap in terms of a judgment. I mean like the stuff we've been doing over the last. Laura's getting me cussing. Damn it! With the other stuff we've put out that maybe didn't quite hit the mark. But, we got to clean some storylines up, clean some portrayals up. And then once they do that, then we can start moving towards going all the way back. I think right now they haven't established things strong enough and built enough confidence in the fandom to go all the way back to the beginning and tell that story. Because that's bigger than telling the Anakin story, in my opinion. You go all the way back and you mess that up, then that's going to be a huge loss to your franchise. You cannot mess up the beginnings of your franchise. That is massive thing to undertake. And maybe they want to leave it for now until someone pitches them a great approach to it and it organically feels right for them to take that on. But I don't want to see that yet. I maybe 30 to 40 years down the road, maybe you can approach that. What do you think, Laura?
It's hard to say. And I feel like wasn't there some event that happened or something that was announced that like they were gonna bring the Old Republic back.
Yeah.
Like there was going to be some kind of Old Republic story. I don't even remember where that rumor came from or where we left off, or if it was actually confirmed at any point. Probably not. I feel like it was like Comic-Con I was at one year that like in 2018 or 2019 that they had some announcement that they were doing some Old Republic party that I was just like, nah, I don't want to go to that. But I don't know. I don't remember. But I think, I think John makes some good points that like, when you have to have the right storyteller and you have to have the right story if you're going to tackle that. And maybe they may or may not have, the right creator that they're working with right now to tell that story. But if they find them and that person pitches a worthy pitch, then roll with it. I would love good storytellers telling good stories. So I'm always here for that when it comes to Star Wars. But I think a lot of times when I think of like the Old Republic and Knights of the Old Republic, my brain just kind of like shuts off a little bit because I'm like, I wasn't a fan when all of that was happening and it's not part of the canon. And people like talk about it every now and then. And I'm just like, that's not really for me. And it all just kind of shuts off before anyone dives too deep into it. Because I don't know a ton about the Old Republic or Knights of the Old Republic. And I probably won't ever take the time to learn. So, yeah.
Laura's not a past person. She doesn't like to go in the past. She doesn't like to read books from the past. She doesn't like to go back to the past. And so I respect it. I always keep you guys forward. I respect it.
But they would make it now, even though it would be about the past, but they're making it now. So she might be interested because they're making it now.
I don't know.
I'm always surprised. Like Dark Disciples surprised me.
Oh, true.
Season 7 of the Clone Wars surprised me. You know, The Bad Batch will probably surprise me when that show gets going. So we'll see.
That is.
I'm keeping an open mind. That's the difference between me and haters is that I keep an open mind when it comes to these things.
That's true. There you go. That's
true. That's a good point. All right. Thanks, Sean. Appreciate you coming in, brother, man.
Go Yanks.
Go Yankees.
Thanks, Sean.
Andrew Hale said, just showing my support. Can't wait for the Mandalorian season 2. Agreed. We're around the corner.
Yeah. Did you see that they released the writers list? It's going to be Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, and Rick Famuyiwa are the writers for season 2. So that's exciting.
I got to reach out to my connection over there and find out if I can get those episodes early. So like I did last time.
You got them early last time? Shit.
Oh yeah. Well,
nice.
It's good to know people in certain places. And so, but they only released them one at a time ahead of time that week. So that's the way they did it. So they would it was coming out Friday or something. They would release it to the press around Monday or Tuesday. So you only had a few days ahead of everybody else to watch it.
Gotcha.
So that's a possibility. All right, Laura, we put it on the rundown. So let's hit it real quick. This Star Wars: The High Republic crawl, and then we're going to wrap up here in a few minutes. So let's hit it real quick. The Star Wars High Republic crawl was released here. This is the new series that they're working on and will be coming out here in the future. It reads, the galaxy is at peace, ruled by the glorious Republic and protected by the noble and wise Jedi Knights. As a symbol of all that is good, the Republic is about to launch Starlight Beacon into the far reaches of the Outer Rim. This new space station will serve as a ray of hope for all to see. But just as a magnificent renaissance spreads throughout the Republic, so does a frightening new adversary. Now the Guardians of Peace and Justice must face a threat to themselves, the galaxy, and the Force itself. Laura, thoughts on this crawl?
So first of all, I love just surface level that they followed the style of Star Wars crawls. Yes. It doesn't look like it in this image that we're looking at, but I love that there are certain words that are capitalized, and then when they're used a second time, sometimes they're not. They've got the 4 periods at the end. All of it flows exactly as it's supposed to. So well done on that. A+, everybody. But I'm excited because I love this, this juxtaposition of the Death Star, and now we have Starlight Beacon, and it's in all caps in this crawl, which is funny. And it sort of sounds like this is going to be the story that we're getting. It's going to be the good guys version of the enormous space station. So I think that this is going to be interesting. It's an interesting play that they would start with that. But I want to say that there's something that we already know about the High Republic, where I think something happens to that beacon, where there's some giant explosion that happens at some point in the course of this storytelling. So I think there's going to be something that happens to that thing. But I think it'll be. I love that they've thrown that little detail in there.
Yeah. Does it make you, I don't know, the idea of any allusion to a star or to a Death Star or a version of a Death Star or anything like that, it just gives me pause. I've seen so many Death Stars, Life Stars or Death Stars. I've just seen so much of them, and enough is enough. Is there another weapon you can create that doesn't necessarily have to be this? What do you think it'll be though? What do you think? What kind of design do you think it'll take? Because this is supposed to be about the Jedi are the good guys and they're very beloved. This is about reclaiming that idea of the Jedi as the cool ones to be throughout this series. So will this be a beacon that is used or abused possibly by the good guys to spark this idea of creating the propaganda to create a force against the Jedi? What do you think?
Well, that's an interesting take. I mean, we've heard this referred to when talking about the High Republic as the golden age of the Jedi, or the gilded age of the Jedi. And so I think that what we're going to be seeing in this is going to be a lot of I don't think it's going to look anything like the Death Star. I don't think it's going to be shaped like it. I don't think it's going to be like that spherical type of. It's going to be something very different, if I had to guess. Something brightly colored, something that's supposed to sort of serve as like this beacon of hope to the galaxy. But yeah, I wonder how far we're going to sort of get. I mean, when you say the Gilded Age, my mind jumps to like the Roaring 20s, and I'm like, how long can all of that life of jazz and drink last before it all comes crashing down? So I think that it'll be interesting to see how that sort of plays out when it comes to these Jedi who are, from the way that they're kind of making it sound, we're really in their heyday. Yeah. And there's going to be conflict at some point. So I also, when I get what you're saying when you're like, how many Death Stars do we need? We got them in this movie and then this movie and then surprise, they're back in episode 9. But I think when it comes to the group of writers that they hired to be the sort of storytellers of the High Republic and of Project Luminous and brought all these people together, I trust this group so much. I have no doubt in my mind that they're going to knock it out of the park, and that the whole concept and all the planning that's gone into it, I think, is going to be a big payoff for readers. So I'm looking forward to it, and I've got a lot of faith in them. But I totally get where you're coming from. You're like, how many Death Stars do we need? 4, apparently.
4 and counting. This is what the crawl looks like. There, you can find it on their on the website or on Twitter, on social media. You can read it there. And also, just give you a little background as we have the crawl up there for those you might want to read it there. It's a multi-pronged publishing initiative. Sorry about that. That will shed light on the galaxy during the High Republic sub-era of the Age of Republic. It's set 200 years before the events of the Skywalker saga and 800 years after the fall of the Old Republic. Readers will learn about a dark event known as the Great Disaster and see the Jedi confront an enemy called the Nihil, which is teased throughout. And it'll be told in multiple publishing phases. The first phase is being dubbed The Light of the Jedi. That also happens to be the name of the writer Charles Soules's novel, which officially kicks off the High Republic. From there, Lucasfilm has revealed 2 more novels: Claudia Gray's young adult-focused Into the Dark and Justina Ireland's junior novel, A Test of Courage, as well as 2 comic book series. So this is a lot that we're going to get. Laura, do you think fans will read all this stuff and get involved in all this stuff, or do you think this will be very much about some of the fans being involved, but not nowhere near like the multitude or the mainstream fans getting into this?
Well, I think the people who are already readers are sold on this. Anybody who's out there currently reading the new canon stuff and knows is they're familiar with these authors, and they know that they're the best of the best that we have writing Star Wars. And so I think that, that group of people is sold. I don't know how many new fans this is going to bring into I mean, if some people are like, oh, they're going back in the past, or are we doing like the Knights of the Republic thing? And then when they find out that it's not, are they just going to be like, no thanks. So I'll be curious to see who jumps in, but I think that this is going to be, I think it's going to be really exciting. I'm really excited for Charles Soule writing a novel. We've only seen him as a comics writer in Star Wars so far. So the fact that he's writing the sort of like foundational novel of this phase 1 is really, really exciting. I also think that the timing is really good. It was supposed to come out. Charles Soule's novel was supposed to come out, I think, at Celebration, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
So we were supposed to get it in August. And I like that it's coming out now. It's coming out in January. I think January 5th is the day that book debuts.
Yeah, January 5th next year. Yes.
Yeah, and then Claudia Gray's will come out in February. But I like that they're doing it then because I think we're going to be in downtime. A lot of people are going to be like on school break or on work breaks, and hopefully have time to sit down and dive into what I'm sure is going to be an incredible book. Charles Soule's a great storyteller. So I have no doubt in my mind that he's gonna kill this. I think it's gonna be great.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it too. And if you all are interested in reading the first chapter of Charles Soule's Light of the Jedi, it is available and it is out there for you to read. You can go to places like IGN, other websites that link to it, and I'm sure it's on StarWars.com as well. And it talks about why the lightsabers are different in the High Republic era, and there are 5 new Jedi Knights and Masters that are mentioned or explored in that first chapter. So if you want to go dive into that, have a little fun and do that. I know I enjoyed it, so definitely read it if you can. John Cooper says, what's up, John and Laura? Hi from a certain point of view. Oh, thank you.
Hello, John.
How are you? Perry Wakefield just donated, no message. So thank you so much, Perry. Appreciate that. Oh, Brennan, let's bring you in, man. I was waiting for you to come back. Brennan, what's going on, man? We're going to wrap up here in a couple of minutes. What's going on?
Hi, Laura.
How's it going, Brennan?
Going well. So I guess my number one question would be, my only question, I should say, is what's your favorite Star Wars score?
Ooh, I love that question.
You dirty, dirty man. Yeah, all right.
Oh, that's amazing. God, it's weird to say it. Like, I've talked about how Star Wars Rebels is my favorite. I really love the music in Star Wars Rebels.
Yeah.
So I think they did they did an amazing job in all, second, third, and fourth season of that show. I think, though, when it comes to the films, I really like the Force Awakens score. Like, I love the. I even love the cantina scene in that where they've got exactly like even that. Those are some bops in there, man. I like it. And Rey's theme is like
Rey's theme is
such
so
an
wonderful.
Iconic song.
Rey's theme is great.
Yeah. It's incredible. You think that like John Williams would like run out of ideas at some point, and I don't understand how that like hasn't happened. Like that guy's on a whole other playing field. So Rey's theme. I would probably go with that. The prequels have solid music. That's like that's a big, I think, redeeming quality.
Have amazing music.
Exactly, especially like those sweeping romantic themes in Attack of the Clones. It's got a solid score.
Yeah.
What about you, John? What's your favorite?
Oh, I'm pretty lame. I mean, my favorite track is Duel of the Fates. That can't be beat.
Obviously, yeah.
It's the only Star Wars track on a workout mix. It's the only Star Wars track I have because it's like it's so inspirational. Yeah, just that whole beginning as you're stretching out, and then boom, you go. And you're just like, So it's like it's got all of it there for you if you want to explore, or when I'm bike riding, it just kind of gets you in that mode, and so I love it for that. And I know it's late, but I absolutely love Rey's theme. I didn't think that he could do better because the Han and Leia theme is so gorgeous. Leia's theme is so gorgeous. I didn't know that he could improve upon it. I didn't think it was possible. And then Rey's theme just has so many elements, so much of the historical stuff that it's gone on, and you could hear it in the notes, in the lower notes that are happening throughout the piece. You're just like, oh man, there is so much he's playing with in your mind. And you're right, Laura. He's operating on a whole nother level than almost any composer. There's maybe 10 in the history of film that have been able to do what John Williams has done so consistently for so long. But overall, the overall score, I can never walk away from Empire. Just
that's my favorite of the scores.
Right? The asteroid scene, the score in the asteroid scene, the score with Leia and Han, the score when he's thinking Yoda's of his dad. Yoda's theme is so fantastic. So there's just so much of it. And I can't divorce myself from loving that film.
Mine is the Empire theme overall.
Oh well, of course.
Empire Strikes Back, because it's so. That's Star Wars at its most operatic.
Great point.
It's definitely like favorite, iconic.
Yes,
Yeah.
And my favorite piece is probably the love theme from Attack of the Clones.
Oh, wow.
That's great.
Yeah, I mean, the music, I can't fault the music in that movie at all.
Yeah, right. Interesting. The love theme and Attack of the Clones. All right, Brennan. All right.
Duel of the Fates and Rey's theme are pretty close too.
That's awesome. You have
Thanks,
good taste in music. I love that the music in Attack of the Clones. So Alice and I talk about that a lot on Force Toast. She's a big prequel fan and a big fan of those beautiful sweeping themes and beautiful shots.
Just so amazing.
Yeah. Agreed.
Cool. Okay. Thank you so much. That's all I got.
Thanks, Brennan.
Good to see you, man. Got the hangout going on tomorrow and then Saturday, brother. I'll let you know all about it. All right, awesome. Take care, my man. Love Brennan. He's such a great cat. Such a big supporter of the Outlaw Nation, too. We have a question. I did not get to watch the High Republic panel today. I was recording shows all day. Did you get to watch any of it, Laura?
Alice retweeted or live tweeted it from the Force Toast account. So I read through some of the accounts that she had. It was really, it's quick. I think it was only a 30-minute panel, surprisingly. Wow. There was a couple of interesting highlights through there, but no, I didn't get to watch it myself, unfortunately.
Yeah, neither have I. Sorry, Hobbit F. Andy, but definitely we'll be watching it tomorrow. I've got a little bit of time tomorrow in between my other shows that I'm doing tomorrow, but I'll definitely be watching it for sure. Great reference, Smithy. The Imperial March is popular in sporting events. Absolutely. I was just going to mention that before Brennan left. Yeah, that's the only piece they play. The only Star Wars piece they really play consistently is at these sporting events is the Imperial March. It's that powerful, and they play either when a call goes against them or when they're trying to stomp out someone they're playing. So, it goes out that way. All right, I think we're good, Laura. Hour and a half into this thing. We should wrap it up here. I don't see any more Streamlabs or Super Chats that have rolled through. Oh, sorry. Curbside Prophet threw one in real quick. Let me read it real quick. It just said, but seriously, crazed, Mace, Windu. I appreciate that.
Half robot, fully insane, Mace Windu. Give it to me. I like it.
Where are those mother effing Skywalkers? Yeah, I would love to see that. Absolutely. All right. I'm
robotic hand. It's going to be great.
It's purple.
Yes.
All right.
He's Thanos now. Now we're just bringing Thanos into Star Wars.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us this evening for a live episode of the Jedi Way. It was our pleasure bringing it to you. It was such a fun time. An hour and a half flew by like crazy. I love doing the show with Laura, and it's great to hear her points of views on these things. And always, it's fun to hear the enthusiasm for Star Wars as well, not only from Laura but from all of you. And the compliments you give us is a really awesome thing as we're building this show out and acquiring more and more fans every week. Laura, anything you want to say here as we wrap up?
No, I don't think so. I think that covers it. And I was really excited to sit and talk about Empire today. And I'm really excited for this book from a certain point of view, Empire Strikes Back. Again, that hits shelves November 10th. So I'm looking forward to that. But in the meantime, you can find me on Twitter. I'm at @shutup_Laura. You can find me there on Instagram as well. But I am more active on Twitter. So come connect with me there. How about you, John?
There, you can find me at The Rocha Says on Twitter and on Instagram. And don't forget, you can also listen to Laura's other Star Wars podcast, Force Toast. It's up there right above her head. There's the address, or forcetoastpod.com there. Go and listen to her episodes that she does with Alice and have some fun listening to their points of views on things. But yeah, you can follow me at The Rocha Says on Twitter and on Instagram. You know, I got a bunch of shows that I do here on the Outlaw Nation channel. A nice variety. There's something for everybody. That's the whole point of my channel. And so I'd appreciate if you gave it some love. If you haven't subscribed yet, maybe you're a new person, new watcher of the channel, go down there and subscribe. There's more content coming for each of the shows I do here on the channel. Now that we've made the move fully to San Diego, there's more time to create stuff. There's more space in the studio to create stuff. And so there'll be some stuff coming down the road. So subscribe for now and hit that bell so you can be notified of all the shows when they're coming on live. Thanks to everybody sending Streamlabs and a Super Chat tonight. Always appreciate the support. Let's keep spreading the word. Thanks. And please hit a like. If you haven't hit the like button on this, please do hit that thumbs up button. If you're watching us later, and a lot of you do watch us later after we've done a live show on any of the shows here in Outlaw Nation, but specifically, definitely for the Jedi Way, please hit that like button and leave a comment down below. Keep it civil, people. Keep it civil. Leave a comment down below. The more comments you leave us, the more likes you leave us, elevates the visibility of the channel, elevates the visibility of the show, and maybe puts it on the side to suggest to people other Star Wars shows they can watch when they're watching another Star Wars show. So do all of that to support the show here and support everything we're doing here on the Jedi Way. All right, that's it. That's it for me and Laura Kelly. We got to get out of here. Much love to all of you. And what do we tell them, Laura, as we end every show?
We tell them to, we thank them for joining us for our first live show. That was really fun today. So thank you everyone for tuning in. And until next time, remember, your focus determines your reality.